Hello, this is Miranda Darrow, and today we're talking about adding suspense to your fiction writing. Whether you're writing suspense genre like domestic suspense or romantic suspense, or if you want to add some suspense elements to your novel of any genre, check out these elements of writing suspense in fiction. Suspense is the engine that keeps readers turning pages deep into the night, their hearts pounding as they wait to see what happens. But writing suspense isn't just about shocking twists and nail biting cliffhangers. It's about crafting tension, emotion, and stakes so high they leave readers gripping the edge of their seats. So, how do we inject our stories with that irresistible can't stop reading factor? Let's break it down. First, there's the slow burn, building tension over time. Suspense isn't about throwing everything at the readers all at once. It's more like a slow simmering pot that builds heat until it finally boils over. To achieve this, you want to pace your story in a way that gradually increases the tension, scene by scene. Give your readers just enough to keep them hungry for more without overwhelming them. This is why many suspense novels start out slowly, with the main character in their regular world, with just a hint that something is off. This is a sharp contrast to the in the middle of the big action scene opening that starts many thriller genre novels and movies. Suspense often resonates with readers because they can picture themselves in the world of the main character at the start. And when things start going off the rails ever so slightly at first, it's reasonable for readers to think, this could happen to me too. Unlike the life of an international super spy, you too could be a nosy neighbor who saw too much. One method is to layer in small, subtle mysteries early on. Introduce questions that linger in the background of the plot. They don't have to be massive right away. Think breadcrumbs, not bombshells. Readers love to be active participants, gathering clues along the way. Keep in mind that the absence of something, an answer, a revelation, a crucial piece of information, can be just as powerful as what you show. Here's a tip. Every time you give an answer, raise a new question. This helps sustain the suspense and keeps your readers curious. They want to know what happens next, but the stakes get higher as the plot thickens. Tip number 2, the stakes make it matter. Suspense relies on stakes. What does the character stand to lose if things go wrong? Whether it's a character's life, their reputation, their loved ones, or even their grip on reality, there needs to be something on the line. This is true of all fiction, but it really matters in suspense. If readers feel like nothing important is at risk, their investment in the story plummets. You don't want to be whining about the availability of avocado toast at your favorite brunch spot. Your stakes need to land. To boost your suspense, personalize the stakes. The more specific and tied to the character's emotional core, the better. Readers connect to characters that they care about, so the potential consequences should feel devastating to the character. If you're writing about a killer on the loose, don't just describe the danger to the general public in terms of physical harm. Dive into what danger that would do to the characters' psyches, their relationships, their future. How will their world unravel if they fail? Another tip, add a ticking clock to these stakes. Even if the stakes aren't mutually assured destruction of the entire Earth, they matter to the main character and to readers. And readers will get even more invested if they know that the protagonist needs to meet their goal by X amount of time, or else consequences. Show that ticking clock and the protagonist agonizing over whether they can get everything that they need to do done in the necessary amount of time. A third element is uncertainty. Keep your readers guessing. At its heart, suspense thrives on uncertainty. The readers feel like anything could happen. When writing suspense, don't show all your cards at once. Keep some things hidden. Hint at others, and lead your readers to believe they know more than they do, only to pull the rug out from under them. Use misdirection to keep readers on their toes. Let's say your protagonist is creeping through a dark hallway, hearing a strange noise coming from behind the door. Readers might expect a typical jump scare, but what if you use that expectation to your advantage? Maybe the door creaks open, revealing nothing, a cat on a Roomba. The tension isn't broken. Instead, it intensifies because now the character and the readers know that something is wrong, but they don't know what. This uncertainty builds a deeper sense of dread. Here's a tip. If you find yourself, and likely your readers, expecting a certain outcome, mix it up. Find the opposite of what you'd expect and see how your characters react when the unexpected happens. Channel your inner Julie Chen from Big Brother and make your readers expect the unexpected. Keep the readers off balance. like they were house guests, suddenly living outside for a week in Janky World. Tip number 4, conflict. Every scene needs it. Suspense lives and breathes in conflict. External conflict, a stalker, a storm, a crumbling building, that's essential, but internal conflict is just as important. The more torn up your characters are inside, the more it will invoke the reader's analysis of their own choices and fears. When characters struggle with moral dilemmas, regrets, or the question of whether they can trust someone close to them, you're adding a rich layer of suspense. Here's a writing tip. Give your protagonist a moment where they have to make a choice between two equally dangerous or difficult paths. The reader's pulse will race as they weigh the possibilities right along with the main character. What if this choice is whether or not they can trust their partner or their best friend? That leads us to interpersonal conflict, which also drives tension. Suspension often spikes when trust is in short supply. Maybe the heroine suspects her closest friend of betrayal. Maybe your detective is certain the killer is someone in his inner circle. When relationships teeter on the edge of collapse, readers feel that emotional suspense and it amplifies the stakes. One of my favorite episodes of Tough Puppy cartoon was the episode Top Dog in season 2, where Dudley adopted the motto, "Trust no one." This was hilarious because he was wrong almost every time. But my sons and I have kept this motto alive as a rallying cry whenever we're watching something where the main character doesn't know who they can trust, or when readers don't know if they can even trust the main character. That's another hallmark of suspense, the unreliable narrator. So keep in mind, Tough Puppy, trust no one. Also, one of my favorite long-time running series that kept the suspense up with this level of conflict was 24, starring Kiefer Sutherland, especially the first season, where we had no idea who in Jack's life could be trusted. Element number 5, cliffhangers, the art of the stop. Cliffhangers, the ultimate tool in the suspense writer's toolbox. Ending a chapter or scene on a cliffhanger compels your reader to keep going, even if it's way past their bedtime. But here's the catch. Cliffhangers only work if they're earned. You can't throw in a random car crash or shocking twist out of nowhere just to keep the reader hooked, especially if you're doing it chapter after chapter. Instead, build the tension leading up to that moment so that the cliffhanger feels like a natural, inevitable result of the rising stakes. Whether it's a dramatic revelation, looming danger, or a jaw-dropping question, your cliffhanger should propel the story forward and keep the readers in suspense. Don't answer that question. Just ask it and then shift away. A solid cliffhanger doesn't have to be a big moment either. It can be as simple as a character making a disturbing realization or receiving a mysterious message. What matters is that you leave the reader desperate for answers that you're not going to give right away. A tip for chapter cliffhangers is to shift between your main plot action and a subplot, leading readers to wonder for a few pages. But don't do this too often, or they might start skipping the pages that are about your subplot. So this tool is to be employed lightly. And tip number 6, atmosphere. Build a world that feels dangerous, increasingly so, incrementally. The setting and atmosphere are key ingredients in writing suspense. A well-drawn atmosphere can evoke feelings of tension, fear, or unease in readers long before any overt danger appears. Is your protagonist wandering through an empty, creaky house at night? Or maybe they're walking down a bustling city street, feeling like someone is watching them. In either case, the environment should contribute to the reader's sense of dread. Use the setting to reflect the character's mental state. If your protagonist is nervous, let the environment mirror that unease. The wind outside becomes a howl, shadows stretch ominously across the room, or maybe even the normally comforting warmth of a fire suddenly feels stifling. Here's a tip. Use sensory details, sounds, smells, the feel of a cold draft. All can subtly build tension and hint at the horrors to come. In conclusion, suspense is an ongoing dance. At its core, suspense writing is about balancing what the reader knows and doesn't know, playing with their expectations, and always making sure that the tension keeps ratcheting up. Keep your readers engaged by pacing the reveals, focusing on personal stakes, and weaving in uncertainty at every turn. It's not just about scaring them, it's about keeping them hooked, unable to stop reading until they know how it all ends. And remember, like all things in fiction, suspense is deeply personal. What creates tension for one reader may fall flat for another. That's part of the beauty of fiction. You get to craft a story that plays on the specific fears, desires, and doubts of your readers, keeping them enthralled as they turn the page. So lean into those moments of suspense. Make your readers feel it in their bones, and they will follow your characters to the end, terrified, and loving every minute of it. If you're interested in a few examples of suspenseful microfiction I've written for Flash Fiction contests, I'll drop a link in the comments that has a download with 2 stories of 1,000 words or less each that show some building tension, which is the hallmark of suspense, all in a compact short story. One is epistolary, written as a series of text messages, so you can check those out if you're interested. Feel free to drop me a note in the comments or email me if you want to discuss more about suspense. What makes you sit on the edge of your seat while reading? As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notices of my weekly videos on writing, editing, and the writing life. And happy writing!